from a perspective of trauma, there's such a thing as individual trauma, then there's collective trauma. And this collective trauma lives in the memory of the collective. But it seems to function just like individual trauma does. In the brain, when traumatic memories take over, the rational parts of the brain go offline. You can show this on brain scans. Now, and people go into a state of fear and aggression, flight or fight. And traumas that happened long ago seem like they're happening now, so that the present becomes the past and the past becomes the present. When you look at Jewish culture, with all the beautiful and many things about it, many things admirable and unique about it, but along with all that, there's always a sense of insecurity and a sense of fear. If you go to the major Jewish holidays that have a story associated with it, I'm not talking about the spiritual holidays like Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, which have no historical narrative attached to it. But the holidays like Hanukkah or Passover
or Tisha B'Av,
yeah, or Purim,
yeah,
there's always the story, and the story always is that in every generation that rise up against us, they want to kill us. And those are the stories that we tell our kids are on the table.
It's true.
4 times a year. You know, now we managed to triumph, but the warning is in every generation they're going to rise up against us.
Mm-hmm.
And so when something like October the 7th happens, which by any count was a horrific event, if you actually are ahistorical, as the Israeli historian Ilan Pappy calls it. Ahistorical.
Meaning?
If you don't know what happened in Palestine, then October 7th seems just like yet another pogrom of the worst sort.
And the line is, this is the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Right? As if October 7th, the killings happened because these were Jews.
Yeah, exactly. And whereas, you know, as somebody said, if dinosaurs had occupied or Germans or
Vikings,
the Palestinians would still be fighting against them. Yeah. Now, they're not fighting because they're fighting against Jews. But the point is that with an ahistorical perspective, if you grow up with the mainstream view of what's happened in Palestine, and we're the victims, we're trying to make peace, they're always attacking us, then October 7th is just another revivification of that old traumatic wound. And then where you're going to react from? The defensive parts of your brain. And you're going to be in fear mode, and you're going to be in aggressive mode. In fact, you're going to be both of them at the same time.
Mm.
And so I get these messages, you know, somebody writes on my website, have you dissociated so deeply that you're numb to your own people's genocide? Have you converted to Islam? Or are you a martyr? When you're in that traumatized state, you can't think of any alternatives.
Yep.
And you can't think of any kind of a rational response. Apart from the genuine pain that people have over people having been killed on October 7th, or relatives abducted, or a country they love being attacked. I mean, apart from those are normal human responses to pain and rage in response to that. But there's also this re-wounding of the trauma. I mean, when that happens, you're not thinking rationally. And so that anybody even criticizes Israel or points out that there's another story, now we become terrorist supporters, and obviously we're Hamas spokespeople, and because there's such a thing called integrative thinking. In integrative thinking, you can hold two opposing ideas or two contradictory ideas at the same time, which is that Jews have suffered and there's Palestinian suffering. And maybe there's a way to understand that. But in this world, there's only our suffering. And their suffering is purely self-created. And we can't help but make them suffer because they're making us do it.
Right.
So it's a trauma response. I mean, apart from being a political response, in a colonial response and you know, a dominating response on the part of the Israeli government, on the part of individual Jews and communities. There's a lot of unresolved trauma in it.